Hey there, fellow explorer, and welcome to a special Espirito edition of the Deep Dive.
Espirito.
Yeah, Espirito Deep, you could say.
I like that.
You know, it's Italian for expert, so we're
Ah,
taking our expertise to the next level for you today.
I'm
Okay, so you're fascinated by Bangkok, huh? And you sent us a ton of research on it. We're going to try to synthesize it all,
yeah.
but focusing on the less-known aspects of the city, so get ready for some surprises.
Sounds fun.
Did you know, for instance, that the city might be underwater soon?
Yeah, it's a real possibility. Some experts think that in just a few decades, parts of Bangkok could be partially submerged. And it's not just rising sea levels we're talking about, the city itself is actually sinking.
Okay, whoa, let's unpack this. We're diving deep into Bangkok today.
Right.
And not just the usual temples and tuk-tuks. You provided us with some great excerpts from Bangkok's Wikipedia page.
Awesome.
And let me tell you, there's a lot more to this city than meets the eye.
Absolutely. We're going beyond the tourist brochures here. Bangkok is this fascinating mix of ancient traditions and modern challenges.
Right.
And the fact that it might be sinking, well, that adds a whole other layer of complexity.
Yeah, for sure. So we've got this Megacity, a tourism powerhouse,
Mm-hmm.
but it's facing some pretty big environmental challenges. And we're kicking off with a big fact.
Okay.
Euromonitor International just crowned Bangkok the #1 tourism city globally for 2024.
Wow.
With a whopping 32.4 million visitors. Let that sink in for a second.
That's right. It's fascinating to see how they've managed to stay ahead of the curve, even with rising competition from other Southeast Asian destinations. But this isn't a new trend.
Right.
Bangkok has consistently topped those most visited lists for years.
Which makes this whole sinking city thing even more mind-boggling.
I know, right?
So how is a city that's facing such a serious threat
Yeah.
still attracting millions of visitors? What's the secret sauce?
Well, Bangkok offers this incredible mix of culture, history, and affordability,
Mm-hmm.
but it also has this unique energy,
Okay.
a vibrant street life, and a sense of history that's woven into the fabric of the city.
Yeah.
You can be walking down a street lined with skyscrapers and suddenly stumble upon a hidden temple.
Okay, so we've got the temples, the markets, the delicious food. Everyone knows about that stuff.
Mhm.
But you mentioned Bangkok is sinking.
Right?
How does that even happen?
Well, the city is built on a layer of soft clay,
Huh.
and decades of groundwater pumping have led to subsidence.
Subsides it.
It's basically like the city is slowly compacting and sinking. Some experts believe that parts of Bangkok could be below sea level within just a few decades.
Whoa, that's a serious reality check amidst all the travel
It is. You actually sent us a study outlining the geological reason.
Right, yeah.
And there's even a proposal to build a massive seawall to protect the city. Imagine that, a whole city behind a giant barrier.
Okay, so we got this incredible city, a tourism magnet,
Yeah.
but facing a potential environmental crisis. Let's shift gears for a second and talk about something a bit lighter, Bangkok's name.
Okay, sure.
Ready for a little name game?
Always. What's the longest place name you can think of? Because I have a feeling Bangkok is about to blow your mind.
Hit me with it. Is Bangkok's name really that long?
You got it. Prepare to be amazed.
Okay.
Because Bangkok officially holds the Guinness World Record for the longest place name in the world.
Seriously, how long are we talking?
The ceremonial name is a whopping 168 letters long.
168 letters. There's no way I'm remembering that. What does this epic name actually mean?
Well, it's actually quite beautiful when you translate it.
Okay.
It's like a poem dedicated to the city.
Oh, wow.
City of Angels, great city of immortals, magnificent city of the nine gems, seat of the king, city of royal palaces, home of gods incarnate, erected by Vishvakarman at Indra's behest.
Wow, that's way more poetic than just calling it Bangkok. It's like a whole story in itself.
I know, right?
And speaking of names, isn't there a theory that Bangkok itself might come from a fruit?
Exactly. It's thought to be a shortened version of Bangmakok, with makok being the name of a plant that bears olive-like fruit.
Interesting.
Apparently, there used to be a lot of these trees in the area. Who knew city names could be so delicious?
Right. It's like they named the city after a snack. But let's get real for a second.
Okay.
We're talking about a place that's home to billions of people.
Yeah.
What's daily life like beyond the tourist attractions? What makes this city tick?
That's where it gets really interesting. Think of Bangkok as a city of contrasts.
Okay.
You've got gleaming skyscrapers practically elbowing ancient temples,
Really?
bustling street food vendors set up shop right next to luxury malls. It's like stepping into a time machine,
Huh.
but with the best pad thai you've ever tasted.
You've mentioned pad thai a few times now. Is that really the dish to try in Bangkok?
Oh, yeah.
Or is there something else you'd recommend for a visitor who wants to go beyond the tourist fare?
Oh, there's a whole world of culinary delights waiting to be discovered in Bangkok.
Oh, wow.
Pad thai is a classic, for sure.
Right.
But there's so much more to explore.
Really?
You could spend weeks just trying all the different street food dishes. And don't even get me started on the incredible seafood.
All right, you've convinced me. Next trip to Bangkok, I'm going on a full-on food adventure.
You should.
But back to the city itself, you mentioned contrasts.
Yeah.
It's this constant interplay between the old and the new that gives Bangkok such a unique energy, right? It's not just a city frozen in time.
Mm-hmm.
It's constantly evolving.
Precisely. And that evolution comes with its own set of challenges. We already touched upon the threat of rising sea levels and subsidences,
Right.
but there's also the constant tension between preserving its cultural heritage and keeping up with the demands of a rapidly growing modern city.
Right. And let's not forget the traffic jams, which are legendary.
Oh, yeah, totally.
But we'll dive into all of that a bit later.
Okay.
For now, let's zoom in on that fascinating contrast between the ancient and the modern
Right.
and explore how it shapes the cityscape of Bangkok. Because trust me, you won't find anything quite like it anywhere else.
I agree. So imagine this. You're strolling through the heart of Bangkok, and suddenly these towering skyscrapers pierce the skyline.
Oh, yeah?
They cast these long shadows over centuries-old shophouses lining the streets.
I see it. It's like a visual representation of the city's journey through time, isn't it?
The exact.
This blend of architectural styles.
Yeah.
It's almost like a conversation between different eras.
Exactly. And that's what makes Bangkok's cityscape so captivating.
Right.
It's not just a random mix. It's a reflection of how the city has embraced modernity
Yeah.
while still holding on to its rich heritage.
Uh-huh.
Think about the Grand Palace.
Oh, yeah.
This stunning complex of gilded temples and ornate buildings.
Yeah.
Practically a symbol of Thailand's history and culture.
Oh, absolutely. A must-see for any visitor.
Right.
A glimpse into the grandeur of the Siamese kings.
Mm-hmm.
And what's so striking is that just a stone's throw away, you've got the bustling commercial district,
Oh, yeah.
a whirlwind of modern architecture and international businesses.
It's a juxtaposition you don't easily forget.
No, you don't.
And it's not just the big landmarks, it's also in the smaller details.
Okay.
You see these traditional wooden houses nestled between modern apartment blocks.
Wow.
Street food vendors setting up shop right next to trendy cafes.
It's a constant reminder that Bangkok is a living, breathing city
Yeah.
where the past and the present coexist, sometimes even collide.
Yeah, definitely.
But let's talk about those skyscrapers for a minute. I mean, they're impossible to miss.
Right.
How did this vertical transformation of the city come about?
Well, it really took off in the 1980s and 90s.
Okay.
During Asia's economic boom, Bangkok became this magnet for foreign investment.
Uh-huh.
And with that came the need for modern office spaces, luxury hotels, and all the trap-offs of a global city.
Right.
Skyscrapers started shooting up,
Wow.
transforming the skyline and making Bangkok a contender in the league of tallest cities worldwide.
Yeah, it really shows the city's ambition,
Mm-hmm.
this drive to establish itself on the world stage.
Yeah,
But it also raises some questions, right?
of course.
How do you balance this rapid development
Yeah,
with preserving the city's unique character? Because let's be honest, no one wants to see Bangkok turn into a concrete jungle,
true.
devoid of its cultural charm.
That's a crucial question, and to be honest, it's an ongoing debate. There are concerns about losing those traditional neighborhoods,
Right.
the smaller businesses being pushed out by the big developments. There's a fear that Bangkok might lose its soul in this race towards modernization.
Right. But isn't that romanticizing it a bit?
What do you mean?
Those hidden temples were probably once the heart of thriving communities that got displaced.
Yeah, probably.
What happens to those communities when modernization takes over?
That's a valid point. Development often comes at a cost, and it's important to consider the social and cultural impact.
Uh-huh.
In Bangkok, you see this tension playing out in different ways. There are efforts to preserve historic districts,
Okay.
to promote sustainable tourism, and to support local businesses, but it's a constant balancing act.
So it's about finding that sweet spot, right?
Yeah.
Where you embrace progress without sacrificing the very things that make Bangkok so special.
Precisely. And it's not just about the buildings themselves, it's about the people, their way of life, the vibrant street culture that's such an integral part of Bangkok's identity. You know those klongs, the canals we talked about earlier?
Yeah,
Well, they were once the lifeblood of the city.
right. The Venice of the East.
Mm-hmm.
But as the city grew,
Yeah.
many of those canals were filled in, paved over to make way for roads and modern infrastructure.
Yeah.
It's like a whole chapter of the city's history was literally buried beneath the concrete.
It is. But here's where it gets really interesting. Now there's a growing movement to reclaim those lost waterways, to bring back that connection to the water.
That's ambitious. But what about the people who live along those canals now?
Well,
And wouldn't that be super expensive?
it would be a massive undertaking, for sure, but there's a growing recognition that those canals, beyond their historical significance,
Mm-hmm.
also offer potential solutions for some of the city's modern problems.
Okay.
They could help with drainage, reduce traffic congestion, even create green spaces within the urban environment.
So it's not just about nostalgia. It's about looking to the past for inspiration,
Right.
for innovative solutions to the challenges of the present.
Exactly. It's about recognizing that progress doesn't always have to mean erasing the past. Sometimes the answers to our modern dilemmas can be found in the wisdom of previous generations.
It's amazing how relevant that is to a place like Bangkok,
Hmm.
where history is so deeply embedded in the fabric of everyday life.
It's everywhere.
Okay, back to those modern challenges.
Yeah.
That ambition is visible in the skyline,
Uh-huh.
but rapid growth has its downsides. You mentioned the traffic situation in your notes. Well, Bangkok's traffic is notorious.
Oh, it's legendary. It's so bad that it even led
For
to
what?
a special birthing unit for pregnant women stuck in traffic.
What?
The Bangkok police actually have a dedicated team to help expectant mothers who go into labor during rush hour.
Wow.
It's a testament to how bad the congestion can get.
Wow. That's next level traffic. But beyond the inconvenience,
Yeah.
it's a serious issue, right?
Absolutely.
It impacts air quality, productivity, and overall quality of life.
Yeah, for sure.
What's being done to tackle this monstrous problem?
Well, Bangkok's traffic is definitely a force to be reckoned with.
It sounds like it.
But the city's been trying to find solutions, investing heavily in public transportation.
Okay.
Especially in recent years, we're talking an expensive network of buses, a modern SkyTrain system, even a subway.
So are those efforts making a difference?
It's a mixed bag. Public transport has definitely improved, but the sheer volume of vehicles on the roads, coupled with the city's rapid growth,
Right.
makes it an uphill battle.
I bet.
And it's not just about building more roads or expanding public transport either. It's about changing people's habits, encouraging them to rethink their dependence on cars.
It's a cultural shift, isn't it?
Yeah,
And that takes time.
it does. Some cities have implemented congestion pricing,
Okay.
charging drivers a fee to enter certain zones during peak hours. Others are focusing on urban planning, creating more walkable neighborhoods and bike-friendly infrastructure.
Right.
Bangkok is experimenting with some of these ideas, but it's a complex problem with no easy solutions.
Yeah, it would be easy to just throw up their hands and say this traffic is just part of Bangkok's DNA.
Right.
But it seems like they're actually committed to finding solutions,
Yeah, they are,
to making the city more livable, more sustainable.
which is great.
And that's important because the challenges facing Bangkok aren't going away anytime soon.
True.
And one of the most pressing challenges is the very ground the city is built on.
Yeah.
Remember we talked about subsidence earlier?
Mm-hmm.
Well, that sinking ground, coupled with rising sea levels, it's a recipe for disaster,
Not good.
right? And it's not just a theoretical problem. We've already seen the devastating effects of flooding in Bangkok in recent years.
Unfortunately, yeah.
So what's the city doing to prepare for this very real threat? What's the plan for the future? So we're talking about a city built on swampland.
Yeah.
And decades of development have only made it more vulnerable to flooding. What can they possibly do
Right.
to protect Bangkok from the rising tides?
Well, the situation is definitely alarming. It's been on the government's radar for a while now. They've been investing in flood barriers and drainage systems.
So like infrastructure.
Yeah, trying to improve the city's resilience to these extreme weather events.
So they're trying to hold back the water, but is that really a long-term solution?
It's more like a Band-Aid solution.
Yeah.
It might buy them some time,
Yeah.
but the long-term solution needs to be much more radical.
Okay, so what are we talking about here? What kind of radical solutions are on the table?
Well, there have actually been discussions
Really?
about moving the capital city altogether.
Whoa, now that's a drastic measure. So they're considering abandoning Bangkok.
It's been discussed.
But could you imagine Thailand without Bangkok as its beating heart?
I know, it's hard to imagine.
It just wouldn't be the same.
But these are the tough choices that cities around the world are facing as climate change becomes a harsh reality. Bangkok, with its unique challenges,
Right.
its delicate balancing act between tradition and modernity,
Right.
is a city at a crossroads.
It's almost like Bangkok is a living laboratory testing out solutions
Yeah,
for some of humanity's biggest problems.
that's a great way to put it. And what's fascinating is that this city has a history of reinvention.
Yeah.
Remember those Kongs we talked about?
The canal.
Those intricate canals?
Yeah.
They were once the lifeblood of the city, a bustling network of trade and transport.
Right, the Venice of the East. But as the city grew,
Yeah.
many of those canals were filled in, paved over to make way for roads and modern infrastructure.
Exactly. It's like a whole chapter of the city's history was literally buried beneath the concrete.
So they essentially paved over their own history to modernize. Now they're facing the consequences.
In a way, yes. But here's where it gets really interesting.
Okay.
There's a growing movement to reclaim those lost waterways, to bring back that connection to the water.
So they're actually trying to undo some of that modernization, to go back to their roots in a way.
In a sense, yes. There's a recognition that those canals, beyond their historical significance, also offer potential solutions for some of the city's modern problems.
Such as?
They could help with drainage,
Okay.
reduce traffic congestion, even create green spaces within the urban environment.
So it's not just about nostalgia. It's about looking to the past for inspiration,
Right.
for innovative solutions to the challenges of the present.
Exactly. It's about recognizing that progress doesn't always have to mean erasing the past.
Right.
Sometimes the answers to our modern dilemmas can be found in the wisdom of previous generations.
It's a powerful lesson,
Yeah,
and one that seems particularly relevant in a city like Bangkok, where history is so deeply embedded in the fabric of everyday life.
absolutely. It makes you think, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
What other hidden gems, what other forgotten solutions might be waiting to be rediscovered, not
Yeah.
just in Bangkok, but in cities all around the world?
It's a reminder that sometimes we need to take a step back
Yeah.
to look beyond the shiny facade of modernity
Hmm.
and rediscover the valuable lessons of the past.
And that, I think, is the beauty of a deep dive like this. It allows us to peel back the layers,
Mm.
to explore not just what a city is, but what it could be.
Bangkok, a city of contrasts,
Hmm.
a city in constant flux,
Mm-hmm.
a city facing its own mortality, but also a city brimming with life,
Absolutely.
with resilience, with an unshakable spirit. It's a city that leaves you with more questions than answers.
Right.
But that's part of its allure.
So is Bangkok a city on the brink or a model for urban adaptation? What do you think the future holds for this incredible city?